Good evening and welcome to tonight's special meeting of the Bellflower Board of Education. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order at 5 p.m. Extra seating is provided over at Ramona Elementary in the cafeteria, and the meeting will also be live streamed for your convenience. At this time, I would like to call District Office Custodian, Mr. David Weaver, forward to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your hand over your heart, your right hand. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Tonight, we do have requests addressing closed session items. While the meeting of the governing board are not public meetings, they are open to the public. Individual speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on today's only agenda item, and the board will limit the total time for public input of each item, the only item, to 21 minutes as per board bylaw 9322.2.
Mr. President, I believe roll call would be appropriate prior to public comment.
Could you take roll?
Dr. Alhassan?
Present.
Ms. Armstrong?
Present.
Mrs. Garza?
Present.
Ms. Stewart?
Present.
Mr. Critchfield?
Present. Thank you. May I have Marisa Perez to the podium, please?
All right. Good evening, members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Marisa Perez. I'm a member of the Mayfair High School community. I have 3 kids who all attend Mayfair High School and Middle School. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to give comments tonight in regards to the interim superintendent. I encourage the board to appoint a leader who has already developed trust with community stakeholders, including parents, students, teachers, staff, and community members. This is a very important part as the board continues down on this path. During the period of an interim superintendent, I ask that the board please consider the actions for the permanent superintendent. Completion of an online survey, qualities community members want and don't want for a superintendent, holding community conversations for stakeholders to communicate directly to the board. It is very important that these conversations be held at schools, locations where parents, students, teachers, staff, and community members are already familiar with and comfortable attending. I would also like to suggest a screening committee be created. This committee could include students, parents, teachers, staff, administrators, and members of the community. This is not a search committee. It would not take away from the board's ultimate decision-making role. The screening committee could forward the top 10 to 12 candidates to the board. The board could then narrow this list down to the top 3 candidates to interview. In 2014, Cerritos College embarked on a 1-year search process for a new superintendent. It was very slow and it was very deliberate because we wanted to make sure we had the right person. I was very lucky to be part of this process, and Superintendent Jose Fierro is approaching his 9-year anniversary this July of 2024, which is really exceptional for a community college superintendent at this point. As Board of Trustees, we held campus forums with the top 3 candidates. We solicited the attendees' input at these candidate forums, and we sent a Board of Trustees team to visit their campuses. This included a very snowy trip to Wyoming and also a trip down south to San Diego. All these steps were very time-consuming, but they were very effective. So with that, that concludes my remarks, and thank you very much for your consideration of these suggestions.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. I have Karina Valles to the podium. Oh. Why was it still up here? Okay. Never mind. Dr. Robinson.
I pulled 2 cards. Am I allowed to make a first comment and then a second comment?
Well, we just have the one agenda item tonight, so I think it'd be...
It feeds into the agenda item, and I'd like it to be addressed if it's okay. It's regarding safety in the school board meetings.
So for tonight's public comment, it's only open to the closed session item of interim superintendent. If there is a decision to discuss, qualifications for the new interim superintendent.
I had
relate
comments to
same-
that, but my concern is that the comments I make might ensue action that is unfavorable, both for me and for the school board, and I'd like to address that in a public forum. I will keep it very brief if that's okay.
So 3 minutes, as long as it sticks to the item on the
You,
agenda.
you might need to be clever and just tie it into.
I don't think I can. I'm going to go right to the wire on what I have to say. President Critchfield and board, I know none of us on this side of the diocese has a say in what happens next, but I also trust that all of us have the right and maybe the obligation to provide input. So today, that's my hope, that as you move toward the decisions that will guide and govern our trajectory, that you will mindfully and intentionally consider the viewpoints that we, your common interest partners, hold and the suggestions that we share here publicly today and in the days to come. I want to remind the board of the reality that while you are 5 individuals with different backgrounds, interests, expertise, life and work experiences, you are also, and maybe more significantly, a singular unit tasked with the incredibly important duty of custodianship of this district and the educational opportunities and pathways for its children. It's your job as a unit to establish, monitor, support, course correct, and uphold the mission of this district, and to cast a vision for the district office administration to carry out. It is not, as it has been for over 2 decades, the other way around. While most of us may want explanations, the rules of confidentiality and discretion may preclude any of us from knowing why exactly the board made the decision it did last week, a decision which at the very least gave all of us pause. Many will question and some will likely criticize, and others will understandably grieve the loss and dread the changes that have accompanied and will continue to ensue following that simple majority determined choice. What I personally valued about that definitive action, though, was the underlying message that the publicly elected school board governs this district and its central office. It is not now, never should have been, and hopefully never will be again the other way around. All 5 of you ran on platforms of improvement for our children. You promised to work to implement changes. Now it's time to make good on your commitments through the people you placed at the helm next. Our last superintendent was an inspirational leader, the kind of leader who compels and equips people to accomplish as much or more than they aspire to achieve. He was also a decent human being and a very good man. I wish that had been enough, but after decades of transactional leadership, hiring him proved to be a step skip. Someday we will be ready to embrace a visionary, but first we need transformational leadership. We need a motivator, someone who can get people to do well what they may not even want to do in the first place. In order for there to be change, our next leaders need to actually change more than just the name on the placard on the door of the superintendent's office. I don't know how to be more clear than to directly state that the only constant in the BSD leadership equation has been the people sandwiched between the superintendent and the site administrators. The mentality that led us into this state of being cannot be the one that now leads us out of it. Whomever you bring next to the helm has to have the courage and the competence to clean house. We need someone who can remove or relocate stagnant and ineffective district staff and who can lead people who are willing to follow them and not just manage people who remain resistant to change. There's been a lot of talk about strategic planning, but to some degree the conversation about the what is fairly impotent without the who. Your interim appointment needs to bridge the district from what no one wants it to continue to be to what every one of us envision it becoming. It's time to restructure the landscape and redefine our culture, to define and then operationalize the definition of who we are as a district and what we do for our children. By all means, be audacious, but this time, please go slow to go fast. And in my last 14 minutes, I want to address that Peter Herezi, who is in this room, has been making comments in social media. Now, I'm fine with this. He's allowed, this is a public forum, and we are here and you can say the freedom of speech. But the problem is I'm not an elected official. I'm a parent and I'm a teacher. And when I feel threatened when I come in here because my child, who's going to the high school across the street from where I work, has students coming to talk to him and tell him, hey, I heard your mom did something wrong and the feds are coming to get her and the school board and the superintendent and her boss. That's concerning for me. If a student did that, you'd remove them from the school. But when a member of the
Dr. Robinson?
community does that, you allow him to keep coming to
Can
meetings.
we, I'm willing to allow, if you'd like to continue, I'm willing to allow an extra minute, if you'd like. Yes, I would. But please, one more minute.
Okay, just 1 minute. I completely understand that we are here in a public forum. I completely understand the Second Amendment and that we all have the rights to say whatever we want. But none of us have the right, neither legal or illegally, to libel or slander someone else. When somebody puts into context and writes in a public forum that laws have been broken by people, I don't even break the civil law. I don't break the laws of the district. But to make the implication that I and other people, those whom I serve and serve with, are breaking federal laws, and then my child hears about that from other kids and is afraid to go to school because something might happen to him and is afraid for me to go to school because something might happen to me, that's problematic. public. I want to put it out in the public because if something does happen, I want it to be a matter of public record. So that if I'm not here, at least my children can compensate something because their only mother, the only person they have. If something happens to me, because nobody's crazy until everybody's crazy. Nobody expects anybody to do anything until somebody does something. And so if that happens, I want to be on public record that the district knew and chose not to do anything about it. And it's not just me. It's the 5 board members. Just because you run for public office doesn't mean you should be able to be put in front of anyone who wants to say anything about you and your children. That's wrong, and the district needs to do something about it, either legally, formally, or informally, but
Thank you,
something
Dr.
needs to be
Robinson.
done.
Thank you. All right, Linda Atkins Arndt, come on down.
Oh, good evening, Board. Thank you so much for your careful thoughts. I know the next interim person, you'll think carefully about it. We'll have somebody guiding us because there are pieces and parts that I'm afraid are going to get left by the side. I've been working diligently, as my name is Linda Atkins Arndt. I'm a retired teacher from Bellflower. As part of retirement as a certificated employee, we go through the STIRS program. And I've been working with the district and having conversations as recent as last week with the superintendent about errors in reporting and how he sounded like we were going to move forward and be clear and help get everyone checked that might be affected. So I look forward to having the opportunity to continue talking with the district, with help from the district staff, from everyone around, with this interim person you get, and then, of course, with the next superintendent that you choose to guide us. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. All right, Neil Nieves. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to. I thought that was Droddy. Man, it doesn't matter anymore what your guys' decision was to do that. All that matters now is your guys' decision going forward. And I really, really hope that you guys have a plan, because I have a senior at Mayfair ready to graduate. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they won't step foot on a campus in the Bellflower Unified School District. And I live across the street from the high school. I went to high school in Bellflower. I'm a resident in Bellflower. I've lived 39 years. 35 of them I've lived in Bellflower. And we do work in the community. You know, we work with Caring Connections. We work with other people. We work with different organizations. And it's been a mess. It's been a mess. The school board has been a mess for the kids. That's all that matters is the kids. Nobody in this room matters. Only thing that matters is the kids. And nobody seems to care. It doesn't matter. The kids don't matter. They're just a dollar number, it seems like, to a lot of people here. So I hope and I pray that you guys have some type of plan going forward, that you guys just don't name somebody because you need to name somebody, because you need to put somebody in that position, because they tell you you need to put them in that position. I truly hope that you guys had a plan, because you guys decided to hire Dr. Droddy, and then, a year later, you guys decided to fire him. So your first plan obviously didn't work with you guys hiring him. So hopefully going forward, you do have a plan to fix this, because kids need stability. We all need stability. In my household, all I care about is stability. That's it. As long as my kids are stable, nothing else matters to me. And we have kids in this district that don't have stability at home. So when they don't have stability in school, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And it could be fixed if you guys have a plan. I don't know what that plan is. The lady said some other stuff, whatever those advice is that they have, great. But I really hope you guys have a plan going forward, because at the end of the day, all that matters is the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Are there any more cards? No. All right, at this time, the board will adjourn to closed session at 5:16 now. Upon conclusion of the board session, the board will return to open session to report out any action taken by the board and closed. The board will discussion the following. Sorry, that's the script for after. I'll wait for that one. Yeah, I was supposed to stop after the first sentence. All right. I didn't need to do that, huh? The board will now reconvene in open session at 6:42. Board Clerk Garza will report out what was discussed in closed session.
The board took action in closed session to direct General Counsel to engage in negotiations with Lisa Acevedo for the position of interim superintendent.
This meeting is now adjourned.